Many years.
Here, give me the book. Toss me the book. Oh, yeah. Nice prop. Nice prop use.
Nice prop.
Yes.
Good afternoon to the people of the East. Thank you for joining us today as we have a moment to spend with the newly invested Consules of the East. Your Majesties, please.
Good afternoon.
How we doing, East Kingdom?
Thank you for joining us. We're playing around a little bit with the format. We definitely want to keep the idea of the ethereal court as a way to recognize people, but I'd like to try and get some of the energy that I enjoy in court in a slightly more impromptu, interactive way, perhaps.
The 2-week schedule that we've been playing around with was good for when Margarita was queen, but we decided to dial it back just a little bit, just so that our web team has enough time to be able to get the videos off in a good manner and not having to like do stuff a lot last minute. So we're putting on a pace which I hope you'll enjoy as well as keep us sane.
I like the optimistic, not last minute thing.
Yes, I do.
Well, that's nice.
Absolutely, absolutely. Not stressing out our web team is kind of important these days, especially as we're going into being without live in-person events through January. So we'll go ahead and start hitting some of those questions that our people have asked. And we've got questions from a bunch of people from the East as well as outside of the East. So one of the big ones, and it was actually asked a couple of times, and I'm sure you've probably been asked in person a few times, what are we looking at in terms of determining heirs for the thrones?
That's a really good question.
It has been asked a number of times, possibly by my wife.
And mine as well, and quite a few other people, yes.
Apparently in perpetuity is not an acceptable answer. No, I think that the first thing we want to start with there is following Corpora. There are methods that we need to use to find heirs. And then following from there, boy, we've been talking to the bot about this for a while with the closed border with Canada and the ability to move back and forth. And what they have really encouraged us to do is to start having some conversations around the kingdom about what would be acceptable, what is still going to feel Eastern in a way to find heirs, and what the timetable for that's going to be. And so I hesitate to try and define an answer right now, but rather commit to having those conversations.
But with it being distinctly defined in Corpora what heirs are supposed to, how the succession is supposed to be, it's really tough to try to shoehorn something in without at least talking to the populace first. So we have a curia coming up, which we're going to try out virtually, which is kind of like the test bed to be able to do those conversations with the populace, to try to get in a couple conversations, because we're not going to be able to get everyone in on one Zoom thing or one Google Meet, and try to break that up a little bit and have multiple conversations.
That sounds like a great plan. I know that the people of the East will be looking forward to those conversations. So in the same vein, we're starting to see awards come out and the people of the East are looking to know what your plan is for those that are orders of high merit, your silver crescents, your golden mantles, your rapiers, and peerages. What are you planning going forward?
So make sure to update your wiki if you do want your award virtually. It's something that will give our scheduler at least something to look at in a sense of, it's like, would this person want their order of high merit or their peerage virtually? My personal opinion, I would never want my peerage to be virtual, but it's not me. It's going to be the person who's going to be elevated's decision whether they want it to be virtual or not.
And I think we've been in contact with the orders of high merit, with the peerages, having had the chance to have a polling, and the candidates that we saw that were supported by the orders, we've communicated our desire to add them to those orders. And I think even with a wiki of I prefer to wait, I suspect our scheduler will still reach out, because speaking for myself, I know sometimes it's easy to talk about things in the abstract, but when it's actually presented as an option, sometimes it changes my mind. And I know for myself, I really did. So when I was knighted at Penzic because I had switched kingdoms. And it was really important to me that a lot of the people I had known be together. And I think that virtual peerages afford us a little bit of that, especially right now, that connectedness. And I would encourage people to, I'll speak just for myself. I definitely would have taken the peerage online. And because for me, like that path to chivalry, it was less about being knighted and more about getting to be a knight. And that backside, especially the people that are functioning well and staying connected, those are the people whose counsel is going to be invaluable moving forward. And I will personally commit to, when we get to come back together, anyone who received an award that needs an in-person recognition, a stand up in front of a court to get the applause, to receive hugs or high fives from your order, that will be facilitated. Even if we're not on the thrones of the East anymore, I am still very capable of making a party to congratulate people happen.
Absolutely, for sure. So on the same vein, we've gone through one polling for your reign. What are we looking at in terms of a timescale for your next one?
I think we're the first step we wanted to take was really the transitional step of stepping up, making sure that coronation occurred smoothly, and then transitioning into this new court system.
So it's going to be to be determined. So basically, I will probably announce it in one of our courts or in another council of the consuls.
But I suspect soon.
But
I
yes,
suspect
soon. Yes.
I know I've been getting asked a few times, okay, so when is the next one starting? Because they're looking for kind of a time scale. So it's good to hear that you're planning on soon. And I'm sure that the people of the East will be happy to hear that as well.
Yeah, and again, some of this is just logistical stuff where I want to make sure that the machine that makes the polling happens is comfortable with our time scale before I loudly say, hey, without checking with anyone, here's a date.
Yeah.
And the important takeaway, I think, is that don't wait for a polling to write in a recommendation, right? You can write it in.
Correct. Always write in a recommendation no matter what.
Load them up now. Be prepared. So we've touched base on a couple of more business side things. Let's talk about you guys and where you've come from in the SCA. And this will give people an opportunity to hear from you on a more wider scale. What's your favorite thing to do in the SCA prior to sitting on the throne?
Are we looking for honest answers? I like fighting. I like fighting. If we're being really honest, I like being on the throne. I did that before.
So a couple of things that I really like to do in the SCA was I really enjoyed fighting. I really enjoyed being with my brothers and sisters on the field. That was always the camaraderie, but not just the fighting. I always really enjoyed being able to promote somebody, being a pelican. I was always pushing people to actually do what they really wanted to do. And that was something I enjoyed because they enjoyed it. One of the things I was looking forward to while being on the throne and having a little bit of time was I really wanted to start throwing things. I wanted to start throwing those knives. I was really looking forward to that. And here we are. I can probably set something up in my backyard and start throwing things, but it won't be not as fun without the whole community there.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the aspects that is tremendous about being on the throne, is the ability to kind of experience all of the different communities. Not that that's not available all the time, it's just a little bit different. I like fighting. I enjoy ANS. That's kind of my, I like painting, I like making things. I tend to do that slightly more quietly for myself. But I really like organizational stuff. I like seeing large units move around a melee field. I like the commitment and the buy-in that happens on a large scale Kingdom Army events. I've been in the SCA a while. It's really about finding people that are driving towards a similar goal and jumping in and working together.
And
So you
the saying is very true. It's like many stripes make our tiger.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you mentioned arts and sciences. What are your favorite arts and sciences to participate in? And if you could only have, if you could do any arts and sciences and you had the time and materials to do it, what would you do?
My favorite one to do right now is, I said painting, right? It could be illumination, or it could be painting a shield, or shoes, or I enjoy the aspect of drawing and painting. The one that I'm trying very hard to learn, so if I had unlimited time and resources, would be casting, for sure.
Well, we may be able to facilitate that because we got to make certain things.
We do. No, I have supplies, but she gave me unlimited time. So
all right. I actually had a hidden talent for illumination. I know how to do Celtic knotwork. And there are a couple old scrolls when I first started in the SCA where I actually made Celtic knotwork borders for their scrolls. So that's an art that I still particularly enjoy doing. And just with other things, I just haven't had the time to keep up.
As an illuminator, you make my heart happy.
Wait, with unlimited time, embroidery.
Oh, yeah, true.
Because I'm not fast.
True.
Yeah, no, neither am I. It takes a lot of work. The embroiderers out there are tremendously skilled. We're in this virtual environment now. What are some of the ways that you think that local groups can continue to engage the people that are maybe less technologically inclined? How can we keep those members and continue to work to increase our membership?
Well, I think I'm going to answer your questions backwards. I think increasing membership amongst those that are not technologically inclined right now is going to be a really difficult task. Because I don't know the traditional way that we generate more exposure is by being in front of people in person. And I think that's going to be difficult. I would love to hear some fantastic ideas. I think the engagement on a local level, I think I'm gonna roll back to the arts. I think that a lot of the mechanics of what needs to be done, be it business meetings, be it guilds, be it art that's going on, I think that there's a way to stay connected. I think maybe you're looking at, I wish I had a better answer. I'd be solving a lot of things if I had a better answer. I think those, if you're, as I said, those are.
So, all right, for those not technologically inclined, and then if they're not already part of the local group, is a challenge. Because the only way to really find us now is either via the web or word of mouth. And that is how it used to happen. But we also used to have the demos, right? Which basically what happened to me was a friend of mine in high school said, "Hey, I'm part of this SCA thing. You should try it out sometime." And I didn't. And then I followed a girl to a college, and that's where I really found the SCA because it was live in front of me. And I actually see the interaction and the thwack of the stick and everything. And it was like, oh my gosh. But our traditional ways aren't working because we're in the COVID environment. So if they're already part of the local group, you can reach out via phone call or some kind of other method. If we have their address, we would rate them, but everything is online nowadays. So, and even to be part of the newsletter and everything like that, you have to really try to think of new ways of reaching out and outreach to the community.
And as you're talking, I'm wondering if there's a combination there. I love the idea of reaching out via phone, right? If you are not, I feel like I'm talking to the people that have technology access right now, right? So if you're aware of that person, reaching out, but I'm wondering if on that local level, right, if like a physical newsletter could happen again, right? Like even if it was something that you could opt into where something could show up in your mailbox because you don't have as easy an access. And that way, even within the local group, you could talk about what things are doing, what projects people may be working on, where we are moving back, what we're moving back to. I'm wondering if maybe we need to kind of like, in that aspect, especially on a local level, roll back our thinking to a pre, going back 20 years in my head.
Yeah, I think those are definitely all options that local groups can be looking at to help increase their membership. Something that is a potential is to continue to do posters and things for local supermarkets and put them up in places that you wouldn't normally. Little things like that, just to drum up that interest again. And because we're talking in this virtual environment, and it's easier to see some things that we haven't in the past. Right now, we're looking at Your Majesties are hosting an online Arts and Sciences Championship in January, and that's amazing, and that's really fascinating because it means that people from the southernmost tip to the northernmost tip of the kingdom can participate. What are you considering for your martial champions?
So I want to add something to what you just said and then jump into martial champions. What I love is not only does kind of everyone get to participate in the ANS challenge, but they get the exposure to the entire kingdom, right? The people from the southernmost portion to the northernmost tip not only can participate, but can be seen by kind of the polar opposite and everybody in between. With the martial champions, we have been talking to our martial champions, and I think the desire there is kind of to wait until their activities can resume at the level we'd like to see. We talked to all of them and we said, listen, like, if this has put you in a position where you've extended yourself well beyond what you thought you were initially committing to, we're willing to facilitate a changeover and discuss how we want. And unanimously, the answer was, we're not burned out, right? We're willing to stand in this position to represent the kingdom until our activity can truly be championed by someone else, which I was very encouraged by. It was a lovely moment, but we're all looking for new and innovative solutions, and I've gotten a number, like the idea of poetry, like a poetry reading to decide a heavy champion. And I use that as a specific example because if I have people that would like to be a heavy champion that are capable of writing and reading poetry, come to the Bardic Championship. I really hesitate to use the activity of another champion to decide something else. I would never ask the bards to fence. Bards can fence, but it's not the way that I find a fantastic bard. I feel like I've just walked into a bardic fencing performance at some point, and I understand that.
I should point out that your current champion, Master Grimm, is also a fencer.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I am certain I have some heavy fighters out there of championship caliber that can also read and write poetry. And I would love to hear them read and write poetry, but I don't want to use that to determine their merit as a heavy fighter and their ability to stand as a champion for the kingdom in that regard. And so I think for those, and again, like martial is very broad in my mind, right? I'm talking about heavy, I mentioned fencing, but martial extends through archery and thrown weapons. It's a weapon, it's going at something. And those are communities where, again, like we reach out and we talk to the whole community and we're like, should we figure out something innovative at home? And the answer really was, for right now, let's wait. And that's something we're comfortable with because it's still hope on the horizon.
I think it's important that we hang on to that hope. I think that's what's going to continue to drive us forward and staying knit as a community. I'm looking through questions. Give me just a second. There was one I had a second ago. So we've transitioned to talking about martial champions, and let's step back for a second and talk about awards. The awards for martial activities right now is really hard. What are you looking at in terms of how you're assessing a recommendation for somebody who's been recommended for a martial award?
I think there's kind of two parts to that. Any recommendation that falls within a polling order, an order of high merit, a peerage, we're going to look to the council of that order, just as we would any other. And so that kind of leaves me at that silver level. And for me personally, awards at the silver level have indicated a commitment to a specific community. And I know that there are individuals out there at different levels that have shown a dedication and a commitment during this time of separation that has been useful. And if they were brought to our attention because they were excelling through dedication and commitment, regardless of if that activity was art or martial, I think that recognition would still be valid.
Very much true.
I like that. So again, for the people of the East, don't stop writing people in just because we're not able to be in person. I think that's a really big takeaway. I think it's important that we continue to recognize those people who are dedicating themselves to their growth and the growth of their communities. So let's talk about your favorite events. Prior to becoming the Princes of Tirmara and the Heirs to the Throne, what were your favorite events in the East?
100 minutes.
That's a good one.
100 minutes is a really good one. Another one for me was Mudthaw, and of course the big one for I had for my local group, Barony Concordia Snows, is War of the Roses.
Those are three really good events.
Those are really three really good
All of
events.
those.
Yeah, and I have secondaries because of the way they fall on the calendar.
Sure.
Because one of the events I've never gotten to, which I was looking forward to getting to, was Beltanes and GNU, Great Northeastern War. I was looking forward to those two, and that happened.
I am personally attached to Great Northeastern War, I won't lie.
Great Northeastern War is a fantastic event. I was also looking forward to a Beltanes trip. I see pictures, they fill me with envy. I need to get there. I would say, just for me, because I'm a grinder, I like Burka. I like me a good 3 to 4 hour bear pit tournament. And I like the Roses tournament. I like the idea of the sponsorship by the Order of the Rose, the teams, the variety of activities that kind of get rolled into that team, that it's not just a team representing one thing, but a team that represents everything we do.
And I actually had a team captain picked out for my Roses team, and that was going to be Sir Beatrix, Sir B, and she was going to help me pick out a good team. I was really looking forward to that.
You went out of kingdom for your captain?
Oh yeah.
She lives in the East, so I would encourage B to formally be a Easterner.
I know. I was trying to drag her in.
Like it? That's a solid plan.
It is, right?
That's a solid plan.
Thorsal will get all mad at me, but I don't care.
If Thorsal can put a flag in the East, you can take.
So how did you get drawn into the SCA? I know Your Majesty Albrecht said that there was a girl involved initially, but then you saw it on campus.
Yeah, okay, so I followed the girl to the College of Potsdam, SUNY Potsdam, and Northern Outpost. Loved the Northern Outpost. They made me a wandering wombat because I went there so much. After I finished my 2 years at Hudson Valley down here, I went to SUNY Plattsburgh, and that's where I ran into now Sir Thorson in a philosophy class, and he asked me, where do you go every weekend? Well, I go to this SCA thing. You want to come along? And I brought him along, and he enjoyed his first event, and that's how we got Sir Thorson. And then I moved back to the Barony of Concordia Snows and got involved in what was the Canton of Brewers Keep. We unfortunately couldn't keep that group alive because there was so much crossover between the barony as a whole and that small canton, and we decided to dissolve the canton, and I've been living here ever since.
I also grew up in Concordia, and I got dragged to a couple fire practices through my local comic books shop. I started as a Viking mercenary, and then this is the part of the SCA that I really like is I moved to Atlantia and just kind of walked into the local group there, right? As someone who didn't have a lot of SCA knowledge, but had armor and shared interests, and just fell into that as a group of friends in the community that I was part of. I was in Atlantia for 6 years or so, moved to Ethelmark, and the same thing happened again. You go to the local meeting, you go to the fighter practice, and it's just kind of like, it's very welcoming. It becomes a group of people that you share a common interest with. You begin traveling together in Ethelmark for, I want to say 10 years, maybe it was 11 years, I'm not sure. And then move to the East, and the whole thing just starts all over again. You go to a local meeting or a fighter practice, and it's just a welcoming community. And
or you get told by common friends, it's like, hey, these folks are moving in, welcome them.
Well, as you build your inner kingdom network, people put you together with other people. Like you go to Penzic enough times, and they're like, "Oh, hey, you're." And also, like that's the inner kingdom lines that are so arbitrary, right? Like you're moving 2 hours up a road, and you have friends, like, but you've crossed the imaginary line, so now you have to have your older Eastern pre-Ethelmart kingdom friends connect you with the current East people.
I've been going to Penzic for I don't know how many years now. One of my first Penzic, I kind of have it determined by royalty. My
Right.
first Penzic was Surinaga and Genevieve. So if you want to go that far back, Surinaga and Genevieve were on the throne of the East, and there was the East Kingdom encampment. And at that time, Concordia of the Snows was camped right across the street with what was the Shire of Ironbog. At that time, there wasn't even a barony yet.
That's pretty impressive. This would have been my first Penzic this year, so it was going to be trial by fire for me. It was going to be great.
No, I'm really sorry.
So
We would have had a great time.
it was going to be amazing. I had no doubt. We're still going to have a Penzic eventually, and I'm going to go. It's going to be great. So you both have, Your Majesty Tyndall, you have younger children. Your Majesty Albert, your daughter is now an adult. How has raising children in the SCA influenced your paths, and how have you supported them through all of this?
That's a really good question. My wife, Cassier, has basically stepped out of the SCA during my daughter's preteen up until about maybe 15 or 16 years old, where she was actually coming to events with us and really started to enjoy the SCA at that point. But she didn't really get involved a lot because she kind of knew she was going off to college in 2 years, which she is now going to the wonderful SUNY Cobleskill in her animal sciences major with a basically a specialty of equine. So one of the things that she enjoyed was coming and actually seeing the equine stuff at the SCA. She really liked it. She didn't really want to get involved because her lifestyle really didn't focus in the SCA. It focused outside of the SCA because she was doing ballet classes and dance classes and trying to mix the SCA with those other interests. You can probably do it. We were not able to do that just because of the time constraints on our careers. Raising someone in the SCA is a tough job, and I really would like to put a shout out to all the Chancellor minors out there who are not babysitters, but are more the educators to our children while we are able to participate in being encouraged to participate with our child within the Chancellor minor curriculums.
Yeah. I think that it's gotten a little bit easier as the SCA has aged. I think we have more kids around. I think that has been one of the keys to my children enjoying their time is when they're able to find even people close to their age at an event. And I think as more of us have started bringing children to events, I think that starts to become easier as more of the kind of those trailblazers have grown up in the SCA. I think it's shown more of a path of what can be done. As far as encouraging my children, there's so much going on in the SCA. It's, if you want to put on armor and fight, you can. If you don't want to, here's a list of classes. I know that that's one of my kids' favorite parts at Penzic is going through that book and finding classes and things that they want to explore. And I think that's kind of part of what makes it work is allowing them to find the doors to open to find enjoyment.
How do you think we as a community can support our youth through the pandemic? it's really important that they stay connected too. And do you think they're being left behind in all this, or are we trying to pull them with us?
I have seen some fantastic opportunities for youth to stay connected. I'm not sure that it's always within the SCA. I think that our SCA community is keeping the youth connected. One of the favorite things, I mean, obviously continuing the Toys for Tigers program, attaching that to court is a way to keep them connected to the kingdom. But I think that kind of as a parent, I encourage my children to stay connected with their friends and the activities that they want to do. And if that ends up being hanging out with SCA kids, talking about SCA stuff, or connecting with SCA kids via Zoom to play D&D, I think both of those are just as valuable, because I think at some point, just maintaining the connected bonds of community will pull us back together. That's my hope.
Yeah, that's really good. I know I have a 12-and-a-half-year-old who's been in the SCA, and part of the reason I joined the SCA was because he could come with me as a single parent.
Mm-hmm.
And 99% of the time, Cody is more welcome at events than I am. So that's he's pretty awesome. He's pretty awesome.
You're pretty awesome too, just so you know.
I appreciate that. So let's imagine the best possible outcome. We get to the end of January, there's a vaccine, we get to go be with our friends. What's the first thing that you want to do, because you'll be on the thrones? What's the first thing you'd like to do?
In a perfect world?
In a perfect world, everything's great. And everything is great.
Probably push everything out to at least Memorial Day, so that the War of the Roses can happen, Penteria can happen, and a bunch of the other first Memorial Day weekend events could occur, because you can get back together camping with your friends and drinking around a fire, having those bardic circles, and then discussing the perfect world of having a crown tourney.
Yeah, I think you hit a lot of it right there. I think it's travel. I think it's travel and seeing people. I think it's getting to. There are opportunities that obviously have gone away because we're separated, and I think getting to be a part of pulling that back together would be a lot of fun. Getting to say, in this perfect world where all of a sudden we've hit the ground and we're running, to start jump-starting those communities, but with a lot of the lessons that we've learned. We've had a lot of opportunity to have some really positive discussions about how we're going to recruit people, who we should be recruiting, what we could be doing to be a stronger, more vibrant, more diverse kingdom, and to really hit that opportunity and say, let's restart our communities, but in a way where we can reach out, we can be inclusive, we can grow, and we can grow in a positive and smart direction.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome. And I think one of the things that the East has done really well is harness its web ministry in such a way that we've been able to keep that connection.
Yeah, one of the things that I hope we actually get to continue doing, in once we have errors, and try to at least try to do at least a virtual court a month, just because I know a lot of people are giving me input about their own anxiety about coming into a physical court, that a virtual court is something that they would definitely want to attend, and try to provide that format for those people who have social anxieties in large groups.
I think that there's a larger positive that we can take away, which is, even in this perfect world where we hit February 1 and everything was magically okay, I don't think that means we need to throw away some of the things that we've learned work well from right now. I think that there are aspects of the way we've made things work that can be refined and continue. I think just because we go back to being able to do everything doesn't mean we need to give up everything we've learned.
I think that's really, really valid. And it's something that actually I hadn't thought of until just now, that continuing to have a virtual court from time to time, especially with as large as the East is, I think that's a really valid and really strong thing we should continue to take forward and propel forward into future reigns. So we've got about 20 minutes, give or take. Let's talk about coronation. That was a really interesting thing that the three of us got to participate in, and there was a lot of behind the scenes that happened, especially up in your barony, which was really nice because Concordia got to be involved in your coronation without being physically there on the day of.
We didn't have the people there, but I'm still stealing this up. Like, there's backdrops and columns that would have been at our coronation in April, that would have been at our coronation at War of the Roses, that were at the coronation that we actually got to have, and that was a tremendous amount of effort that went in. And I think that was kind of one of my favorite things, was that the attendance was small out of necessity, right? The venue was novel out of necessity, but the buy-in from the people that wanted it to be magical was still at the same level it always was. And I really think you could feel that from the event staff that made sure it could happen, even with, like, when you're looking at the calendar, like, if it all goes away again, how do we make sure we can still have it? And we had an event that had fantastic forward-thinking staff, so that even when the bod steps up and says we're taking all events away, we could still have a coronation. And that was so important. And then the production that went in, the commitment to dealing with me and everything that I wanted to have happen that day, because you have a vision in your head, and there were amazing, talented people that got us right to where it needed to be. From the painted backdrop that came from, oh my gosh, Sir Cassius. Tell me it was Sir Cassius. I'm debating twins in my head.
I know, I did the same thing.
They're both amazing artists, and I wanted to make sure I had the right one.
You got the right one.
To the clothing we were wearing, like, everything. We were so well supported, and I think that's what you could see.
Basically a big shout out to our staff for stepping up in being able to get the time crunch right, just because of the way the coronation fell on the calendar. Big shout out to the Shire of Quintavia for being able to host us and to basically make sure that the virtual stuff and the electronics and the web team was there to be able to film the whole thing. And a big, big shout out to the Barony of Concordia for stepping up and being able to do our photo shoots and to provide the magic of the coronation and have it come out so nicely in the extended cut.
Yeah. I'm just running through more names in my head. Like, I didn't say Master Peter the Red with the standards. I said clothing, but I know I didn't say Astrid, who was the primary seamstress, but then also Baroness Maria and
Mistress Osa.
Mistress Osa. Like I feel like I've walked into a danger zone where I'm not going to be able to say every name that helped. But
Olivia was a big
Olivia was a
Olivia
Baker. Yes, Olivia Baker was a big hit. And that's the overwhelming thing was that I know I'm not going to get to every name because the list is so long. There were so many.
I still haven't worked out all the words I really want to say in like a Facebook post or the Book of Faces post or whatever you want to call that electronic thing. And really,
we're live streaming. You can call Facebook.
we'll call, great. I'm gonna call it Facebook. And I don't even know if I will be able to put it into words what my feeling was that day. So there's just a whole bunch of people and just everything that made it come together.
Yeah, I know for me, it was really nice to be able to see our people in person for that minute. And
Like Audrey.
Well, I was getting there, but
And you.
I'm furniture. You had a lot of things going on.
you are not furniture. As much as we'd like to think that you're not furniture.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Look at without our heralds behind us being able to yell out all those other words that we're not going to be able to remember, you're not furniture.
Like don't ad lib that thing, right? No ad libbing.
I could use that on a cue card in front of me all the time.
So noted. I'll make that happen. So with that, do you have closing remarks you'd like to share with the people of the East?
I'm looking forward to having a good winter. As we move forward, I know that my mind is going with a lot of projects that I'm going to be reaching out to try and keep things vibrant over the winter. As we're doing these interactive courts as well as the awards courts, as much as we call for recommendations, if you have an idea for something that we should spend some time talking about, reach out and tell us. We've gotten some really great suggestions about stuff that we could do. If there's something that is working really well or someone doing something really well, tell us. I love to hear that. If there's something we could be doing better, tell us. I mean, the advantage of all of the connectivity is the ability to stay connected. And I will try my best to remain responsive and open-minded.
I personally rewired my garage so I can set up a workbench to repair all the armor that is sitting broken in there. So that's gonna help me keep things going through the winter months. East Kingdom, stay tuned. We have some really things coming down the pike. And yes, we would love to hear your ideas. Please send them out. It'd be really nice to get some feedback, even with the formats that we're doing. So yeah, please send us ideas and how we can make your virtual experience more enjoyable.
You know, one of the things that I just realized, you're fixing your armor.
Yes.
I could air out my canvas that probably didn't get set up at all this summer.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Some general maintenance might be a good idea. I don't know. Do more push-ups.
I believe your son is running you ragged though, right? Like he's outpacing you jogging.
Listen, he is preparing for a cross-country season, and I am trying to help. He is definitely more suited for cross-country than I am. There are some Easterners that are more suited than cross. I could make a list of people that would be better at cross-country than me. I am trying my best, and it's going. I would choose it as an option, but again, you know, you see people around you that you want to support so that they succeed, and you do what you can.
That's awesome. And I hearken back to I think he's just preparing you for the next time that you can actually fight in Crown, because the adage is cardio wins Crown, right?
Cardio wins Crown. I don't know if there's a ceiling to that statement, but I feel like I'm going to find it.
I have no doubt. Your Majesties, thank you so much for joining us today and joining the people of the East. It's been a pleasure. For the people of the East, we strongly recommend and encourage and invite you to join us on September 13th for the first ethereal court for their Majesties, the Consules of the East, as we share some awards that are long overdue. So we'll be here Sunday, September 13th at 4 p.m. live. And all of the order meetings have been sent out via the East Kingdom Gazette and the website, as well as on Facebook, in terms of what days those orders are meeting. So please stay tuned for your web links. Thank you for being with us today, and have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.
Thank you all very much.
Bye for now. Oh, we can put those sprinkles on the tiger. Yeah.